Adobe. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Afwan, how y'all doing today? This is your favorite Vodou priest, Nana Togo and today we are talking about something that is of a little bit of concern to me. We are talking about Vodou, Vodou in the global village, right? That's the name of the thread. And the reason we're talking about it is because I've taken an unscientific, unofficial survey, right, of attitudes regarding voodoo, and there's a lot of misinformation, bad press, a lot of negativity regarding it, and it comes from places that you expect to see it come from, and it comes from places that you don't, you know. And the worst part about it is that people are married to what they think they know about it and can't believe how close they come to what they don't know about it. So let's get started. I really want to have a conversation about this. I have entertained questions and attitudes concerning voodoo, ranging from uh, conflating it with black magic and witchcraft, um, Satanism, etc. And what's bothersome to me about it is where it comes from. The majority of the hate towards voodoo comes from African peoples, right? And this is especially bothersome. Most acceptance comes from uh, non-Africans, uh, mostly from my experience. And like I said, this is very much a non-scientific survey. Unscientific, so not non-scientific. That's a negative word. It's an unscientific survey. Um, but it's been my observation that it's mostly um, young to middle-aged suburban white people who are most accepting of voodoo, and even they misunderstand it, but at least they listen. But the loudest voices against it are African and African American, African diaspora, and that is quite frankly frightening to me. Not because I am concerned about voodoo's ability to endure or whether or not it will be stamped out or whatever, whatever, whatever. Clearly, voodoo, being as old as it is, can take care of itself ideologically, right? What bothers me about it is the idea of what voodoo actually is quite frankly what so many diasporic Africans need. Heck, Africans back on the continent needs voodoo and its uh, ethnic equivalents on the continent. We need it. We need it. It is literally the cure for everything that seems to be ailing us. Case in point, one of the issues plaguing African Americans today is the high crime rate. Now, mass media will have you believe that the high crime rate in African America is disproportionately high. The they like to quote the black on black crime thing. The rate itself is not more than 3 points higher than white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, Native American on Native American crime, whatever demographic you choose to chop that up by, it's not higher than that. What is disproportionately higher is poverty. And poverty seems to be the most consistent indicator. In fact, and the reason you have these numbers that look like this, these in group on in group numbers that look like that, where the majority of the crimes happen within groups, is because criminals aren't known for busing and outsourcing. If most crimes occur because of necessity or covetousness, right? You envy. You see something that somebody else wants. It starts with the eyes. You see something that someone else has that you want, or you need something that someone else has. Right? Those are the two reasons that the majority of crimes of any kind ever occur. And so what happens is you see who's around you. So you want or need what the people around you have. And that's why you have that issue. And the greater the number of people with need, the greater the number of people you have committing violent crimes. I mean, and a lot of people, some people who are going to look at this video are going to quote DOJ statistics. Well, actually, DOJ doesn't have any statistics. FBI statistics, Uniform Criminal Report, crime support statistics to be exact. And I will tell you, don't look there if you want to have a good idea of where crime originates and the factors that are impacting it. Because the FBI does not record. They literally say so in the Uniform Criminal Report that they aren't looking at things that are causatives. They're looking at things that are correlative. So, if you want to see what lends itself to be causative to high crime rates, look at the CDC's reports and look at the consensus not the consensus, the Census Bureau reports. These things will tell you that information. This is how I know that 2%, that the Uniform Crime Report only covers 2% of the African American population. I hadn't checked for other populations because, quite frankly, I wasn't concerned. Other populations weren't being vilified and shot down in the streets because they're innately more criminal than all other Americans, right? Well, it was just African Americans, and those numbers turn out to And according to those numbers turn out to reflect that only 2% of the African Americans in the country are responsible for 50% of close to 50% of the crimes in the country, violent crimes. That is not all the crimes, just violent ones. So you consider that, and then you say, well, how does voodoo help with that? Well, voodoo addresses poverty. How does voodoo address poverty? If you go to Africa, everybody over there is poor. Everybody over there is not poor. Everybody over there doesn't have your paper money. Everybody over there doesn't have your material goods. Everybody over there is not poor because everybody over there owns their own home. Everybody over there eats every day. I have not seen starving people in Africa, and I've been there. I have not seen them. Right? I've seen, and here, let me explain to you why. Let me explain to you why. Voodoo as a social structure, you have, well, first off, voodoo as a personal practice, you have what we call vosa. Other groups, other African traditions call it Igbo, and there's a couple of other things. And long story short, it means sacrifices. We have sacrifices, and we have them quite regularly. Individuals have them, ethnic groups have them, states have them, towns and villages have them. These things happen all the time. And you know what this does? This produces a surplus of food for people, food and raw resources. Why? Because animal sacrifices, along with the other offerings that are placed on altars, are ultimately processed and utilized by the community. So here it is. Everybody's got a full belly. Everybody has a full belly. So nobody's robbing nobody to get bread and milk money. Crisis averted. Doesn't seem to work over there. Well, actually, the type of crime that they have over there now are capitalist crimes and are mostly crimes that happen in the cities where people aren't practicing the traditions anymore. In other words, where people are westernized, that's where you have these crimes at. And this is not like, my distaste for Western philosophy is well documented. I'm not going to beat that over the head. This is not an attempt to indict Western ideology. Right? 'Cause that's not what I'm here to do right now. What I'm here to do right now is explain how the practice of voodoo is socially healthy. I'm also going to explain how it's spiritually healthy and mentally healthy, but right now, at this particular moment, I'm explaining how it's socially healthy. It is the welfare program that we have. It is a natural welfare program. It is Nana Densu's festival, which actually y'all just passed. I think it was about a month or so ago. And you go and you purchase all of these cows for slaughter. You draw all this water for ritual. You draw all of these offerings of herbs and whatever, and you bring them to the festival, and you make sacrifice. You make the offerings. You've connected with people from all over the village, all over the town, all over the region. You've networked, reestablished ties, built new ones, presented children that were born, informed people of vacancies in offices and stuff like that. All kinds of social interactions happen. then you make outside. And everybody goes home with food. You fed hundreds of thousands of people. Nobody is allowed to be hungry. Another example of how it's socially conscious. Uh, person does something that is violation of morality of some sort of moral violation, ethical violation, hmm? Breaks a taboo or something. How does this person? How does this person fix this problem? Especially if he doesn't have a lot of money. If this person knows the skill, he teaches the skill to someone for free. Not allowed to charge anybody. If this person has a skill, he agrees to, I don't know, say if he builds houses, he agrees to build a homeless person's house. He takes a piece of his own land and he builds a house on it. He says, "Okay, you homeless guy, you live here. This is your house. This is for you and your family forever. This no longer belongs to me. It belongs to you now. I can't tell you what to do with it. Now I'll never look at you and tell you owe me because I've done this for you. Because you don't owe me because I've done this for you. You have given me an opportunity to rid myself of a crime that to expiate a crime or sin, for lack of a better word, that I've committed, broken taboo. You have allowed me to be pure. So here, you come live here." And I see homeless people out here all the time. It is horrible. And y'all, I live in Alaska, and it's coming up on winter. It's not even winter yet. We got snow on the mountains. It'll be a nice little glaze of ice here in about 3 days. Snow all over the place, and dead bodies to go with them. We need this. We need Vodou. Vodou is all the social programs that we ever need. And you don't have to worry about is this politician going to cut this program? Is that politician going to take something that was set aside for us and give it to them over there? And you don't have to worry about that. Because Vodou is you taking care of you. But we're not doing that. We hate Vodou. We are taught to hate Vodou. Pay attention, people. Pay attention. We have health-wise, right? Let's look at the mental health aspect of it. Let's look at the mental health aspect of it. Dad, go ahead and move my camera around. Here we go. Check and see here if I missed something. I'm waiting for something to come in. All right. Let's look at the mental health aspect of it. You have young men and women facing emotional burdens and challenges that they're not prepared for. You know why? Because they aren't taught to. They don't have their head spirits identified. They don't have their destinies identified, and so they aren't prepared for the life that they should best be living. Number one, and then more importantly, when these young people start feeling these entering these changes in their lives, right? And this applies to us older folks too. Give me a minute, I'll get us there. When we start experiencing these changes in our lives, there's no time of demarcation where you said, okay, you are no longer a child, right? There's nothing that says they don't know when when they are when they are no longer babies. They don't know when they've become toddlers. They don't know when they become children, right? They don't know when they've become teenagers. They don't know when they become men and women, right? Which itself breaks down. They don't know when they become mothers and fathers. Actually, that's the only thing that they do know, right? The only time an American child knows that they're not a child anymore is when they produce a life, or when they get drunk, or when they go to institutions that don't accept them, like college or the military. These places force you to change. They say you can't be who you are. And I've been in the military. I've actually been to college, but I didn't do well there. It's not it's not that I wasn't smart enough. It was simply that there's always something that made me have to leave out of there. Um, but that's a me thing. It had nothing to do with the institution itself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing either one of those. I've been in the military. The military is a very good institution. Right? It has its problems, you know, but it also has its advantages. And depending on who you are as an individual, will determine whether or not it is suitable for you, right? But and it's the same way with college. Depending on who you are as an individual, will determine whether or not it's suitable for you. And there's nothing in place to help a young person identify this, right? When you get into both of those institutions, the first thing what you do to prove your man or womanliness is you get drunk and you have sex, right? These are the things that we have that mark us off. If you look at our communities, these are the same two things that we have in the streets to mark us off as whether or not we're adults, right? And oh yeah, I forgot. And you fight. You get into various degrees of indiscriminate violence, right? There you go. There you have it. That's how you figure out if you're a man or a woman in America. That's unsat, and it's not necessary. And Vodou has an alternative. Right? We have alternatives. We have rites of passages. Folks don't take them. They reject them, and they reject them on the continent, and we never knew about them here. We go out here and we try to stake claim for our identity. And when we realize that we don't have one indigenous to ourselves, we go and we try to take other people. So now we're melanated original Native Americans, and now we're Hebrew Israelites, and now we're all of these other good things. We're Black Muslims. We're all these things. We're everything. We're Christian. We're everything except who we see in the mirror. We're everything. We pry ourselves into all of these spaces that, quite frankly, aren't exactly welcoming of us and never have been. Right? We pry ourselves into all of these spaces. Tell them you must accept us. And a few of them say, oh, well, we did bring you here. Or, yeah, we didn't do anything when we had the chance to get you out of the situation that you're in. Or, yeah, we did kind of bleed you out of all your natural resources and worked you like a Hebrew slave to you. There's nothing left to you. You're just skin and bones, and You are the remnant of what's left. And yeah, I suppose we are the benevolent uh, God of the world. And if we don't take care of your savage behind, who will? And we're okay with that. And then folks want to know why are we crazy? That's why we're crazy. Voodoo will allow us to have that. Voodoo doesn't allow us to have that mentality. It doesn't allow us to have that sick worldview, wherein then you turn around and you become depressed and self-loathing, trying to distance yourself from who and what you are. There's this little girl on that is going around. I know it's going around because I shared it yesterday. There's this little girl. She's 16 years old. Beautiful child. Beautiful in the darkness of her skin. Beautiful in the roundness of her eyes, the fullness of her lips, the shape of her nose. Right? Beautiful in every way. Somehow, some way, her light-skinned mother uh, was in a relationship or married to a white man or something like that. This little girl now goes around talking about, I'm Caucasian. I'm Caucasian. I don't care what anyone says. I'm Caucasian. What about the mirror? It's look at my hair. Look, my nose isn't too big. My lips are just right. It's not too big, not too small. And I'm like, oh, but that's an illness. That's an illness that comes from self-hate, and that self-hate comes from not knowing who you are. Now, I'm not saying that voodoo is for black people and only for black people, but voodoo is for knowing who your mother and father is, who their mother and father is, who their mother and father is, ad infinitum till you get back to Mama Lisa, the first mother and father of all things in creation. This is what voodoo says. This is what it does. This is what it's about. So you're not allowed to not know the ethnic group that you are and the ones that led up to who you have become, right? Life is a rhythm. We know this. So there's no such concept of you belonging to this one ethnic group ad infinitum. Because if you go back far enough, your line, for example, African Americans are their own ethnic group. But we come from a people, an ethnic group in West Africa. And in some cases, other places, Central or East Africa. Very few people have groups that go all the way back there directly. Because West Africans have roots that go back to East and North Africa, but mostly East Africa. So you see how that. So voodoo doesn't tell you you're this, you can't be that. It doesn't do that. It says you are who you are because you come from this place. This little girl would not have that type of confusion if she had her voodoo, because she'd know her Jesoto. She'd know her Sejoto, and then she wouldn't have this problem. But she don't have voodoo. So instead, she has to fill in the blanks the best way she knows how, like most people, and that way generally creates some sort of some significant degree of uh, cognitive dissonance, and in her case, it manifests as this transracial identity crisis that she's having. In other people, it turns into a streak of violence, a self-loathing, a pathological self-loathing. Um, in others, it turns into a militancy that is just mind-boggling, and it becomes a parody of it becomes white supremacy and blackface. It some of the most shameful displays of racism originates in this type of attitude, in this problem. that's just mental health. You start talking about physical health, and you look at the ethno. We won't even talk about the work that the actual spirits that you see. I'm wearing sakbata and tudela today. We won't even talk about um, the the actual spiritual treating diseases at its spiritual root, and letting the cascading effect of healing go from there. Right? We can talk about the ethno botanical nature of voodoo and how so much of voodoo is just herbs. So much of voodoo is just medicine. Atike, ajike, ngoro voodoo. Mm. These are the healing traditions. Dike voodoo. These are the healing traditions. And these are aspects, essential aspects of the area of voodoo. And we don't talk about them. Nope. You never hear about that. Uh, so I'm not going to continue on, philosophic with the philosophical advantages of voodoo and so on and so forth, historical, so on and so forth. I think I've made the point. Voodoo is what the people need. Now, everybody benefits from voodoo. Everybody benefits from voodoo. But for the African diaspora specifically, you need it. You need it. So when I look and I see so much contention towards it, so much malice towards it, people looking at it and calling it demon worship. The Bible says if you knew that Bible and you knew voodoo, you know voodoo is closer to practicing what's in that Bible than what you do. Uh, it breaks my heart. It does. It breaks my heart. And I wouldn't care so much if it was just a matter of I'd rather go this way than that way. It's not. It's a matter of you must go this way because if you go to the voodoo, terrible, evil things will happen to you. And my favorite thing is folks love to throw up there. Well, look what voodoo has done to Haiti, and look what it has done to Africa. No, no. You look at what voodoo has done to Africa, for example. If you look at what voodoo has done to Africa, you will find that Africa did pretty good until Islam and Christianity decided that they needed resources that they didn't have at home. And then all of a sudden, voodoo became the reason why they were killing you. Voodoo became the reason why they were robbing you. Voodoo became the reason why they were stealing your land and stealing your resources and stealing your lives. Voodoo became the reason why that was happening. But that wasn't voodoo's issue. Voodoo didn't have that issue. When people were living with just the spirituality of their own people, that wasn't what was happening. You had raids, you had fights, you had wars. Yeah. You also had reconciliations and growth and reestablishment and regeneration, restoration. So bad things happen, but then they balance themselves out. And through it all, none of it was over which voodoo was real. That is, there's never been a religious war fought over voodoo. Never. Nobody ever said my voodoo is greater than your voodoo. And so to prove it, we're going to exterminate all all of your people unless y'all convert to my way. This never happened, and it never will. It is counter the principle of voodoo because voodoo and other ATRs have always been of the opinion that we are for our people. We are for these people. The voodoo, the spiritual practice is for this group of people. And you have your way, and we have our way. And we don't even have to agree on how to look at these things. You don't have to call God the same name that I call God. You don't call grapes the same name that I call grapes. Some of y'all get that, some of y'all won't. You won't. You don't call elephant. You don't call an elephant trunk elephant trunk. You call it whatever you call it. You don't call elephant's ear elephant ear. You call it whatever you call it. You don't even call the elephant what I call the elephant. So voodoo does not lend itself to religious strife. It just doesn't. Do you? If there's a difference between the two of us, we'll find out when we die. We see each other. If we see someone doing something that we like, we can approach each other and talk to each other about it. And by talk to each other about it, I mean, I like what you did right there. Could you please teach me that? You cannot? Okay, thank you. I do not appreciate that right there. Is that how you do it in your lands? In our lands, that is considered taboo. Could you let me know when you're going to do it if I'm in your land so that I can remove myself from you when you do? And if you come to visit my lands, could you not do that while you're there? We consider it inappropriate. Very simple. Very simple. Very simple. And because voodoo is the way it is, the general attitude towards conversations like that is, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't even know, man. Yeah, definitely. That's how y'all do it? Yeah, I didn't know that. Awesome. Yeah, you keep that up. I'm glad I know that about you. Now I know not to know what to do when I approach you, what not to do when I approach you. Go talk to somebody over there. But we won't do that. We won't talk to nobody else. Not in the West. Because voodoo is from the devil. Voodoo, the very word is synonymous with dark, evil, superstitious, and foolish. We use it as an adjective. Voodoo science. Voodoo math. That's when the shit don't make sense. That's what it means. You do some mess and it doesn't make sense, but you call it science, or you calling it math, but it doesn't make sense. Maybe call it voodoo. So, these are some of the things that I think we need to talk about. We're not going to talk about them today, unfortunately. I wish we could. But we will talk about them eventually. I've gone way over the amount of time that I intended on talking about this so far. So, listen, talk, people. Leave your comments below. I really need to hear what you got to say about it. I want to know what you think about it. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk with me. If you speak to me, I will answer back. That's it. We need to figure out what's going on. We need to figure out why. If you don't agree with voodoo, I'd like to know why, what it is about it that you do not agree with. And a lot of times there simply won't be any way to fix certain things. Um, and that's something we just got to be able to deal with as well. But I'd like to hear why people don't like voodoo, right? Don't like African traditions, period, right? And I want to know why some people do, right? So Until then, y'all, this is Nana Togo Messi of the Gluten Fiat de Fit. Uh, respect your taboos. Make your sacrifices. Feed your spirits and have good character. Peace.